Well, hello. Lovely to be here with you. Assuming I'm here with you, because you never really know, do you? Well, actually, do you know what? I did this thing. Did I tell you this? I had was doing a really big gig. This was back in the mid-80s in London. And my good friend and manager, in sort of training me up for it, took me to Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, where, I don't know if you know London, but that's where anyone can stand on a soapbox and talk the biggest load of crap they want, and they'll get a crowd. It would be legitimate. So he wouldn't tell me what the subject was, and we brought a soapbox along, and I got up on it, and he goes, beer. And like, I don't drink, you know, I don't really know that much about beer. And I said, hey, ladies and gentlemen, I've come here to talk to you about beer. And nobody turned around. Like, I didn't have a crowd. He goes, and nipples. And I said, and nipples. And suddenly I had a crowd. And I thought, okay, I get the tenor of this. It doesn't have to be that kind of deep or powerful. It just be nonsense, and I'll have a crowd here. So I started talking a load of nonsense about nipples and stuff. And for somehow or other, that segued organically into me explaining. I had a big crowd by now. Into explaining to them all how we could only really validly say that there was one of us here. Because, you know, you can't really prove that the other people are really there. Even if you touch them, even that might be an illusion. The fact is, we can say that we're experiencing this in our own consciousness, but do we really know that anyone else or anything else is there or not? Not necessarily. But we can say that there's one of us here. And then I went around every person in the crowd and goes, you see, you know that you're here, right? And he goes, yeah, and you know that you're here, right? And I know that I'm here. So really what we're saying is we're all here, but there's really just one of us. And that is what we call the Tao. And I was just like, wow, how did I do that? That is amazing. And they were all dumbstruck. And there was this amazing dude in the front who'd been following it all along, really. He really was giving me the yeah, like that. And at that point, I thought, yeah, I've done it. And it was, oh yeah, I forgot to say, I had to do it for 6 minutes. That was the exercise. And Frank, he looked at his watch when I finished, and he goes, hey, you've got another 3 to go. And I go, oh man, because I peaked, right? And you couldn't top where I was, but that wasn't the point. And you see, not only is there one of us here, I went on, and the guy goes to me, man, you done. But I kept it going. But anyway, yeah, so like that's a long preamble into welcoming you, my esteemed guests, into this online miracle meeting, or miracle mind meeting. It's important for me to do for more than one reason. One is I really feel impelled to somehow share the space as best I can that I'm in because of the practices that I do and that I'm teaching, and that privileges me with an awareness of consciousness, which is for me remarkable. And to share that feels my duty. And so I must do this, because I know it's really healing when I can somehow impart the energy of it, the quality of it. And also because for me personally, it reminds me, because with all the training, with all the focusing on it, with all the, I mean, I'm really busy now doing lyrics, writing about 140, in fact, different lyrics over the next 2 weeks for the microdoses that haven't got lyrics yet. And so even with all those affirmations, which are all really about this, I still keep needing reminding. And the notion of the miracle as a kind of metaphor, to be aware of the fact that your being here is a miracle, because we get so forgetful of the basic amazing gift that we have, being alive, that we start looking for the energy that would give us, if we are aware of it, in much lesser things, in the trinkets of the world, if you like, relatively speaking. So, i.e. achieving things, or connecting with certain people, or experiencing certain activities, whatever it is, or buying, owning certain things, or ordering your life in a certain way. And we're looking for that charge, that energy in these relatively external factors. And in the realm of the yin and the yang, that never delivers. I mean, it distracts and it can comfort momentarily. And, you know, we are here to help comfort each other, partly. But it doesn't deliver the actual juice that we're craving. The juice that we're craving, that, in other words, the feeling of completion, of completeness, of totality, of unity, only is derived from appreciating cognitively that being here in human form is a miracle. And that holds true even and especially because of the fact that we are collectively, as we know, facing what's shaping up to look like quite an imponderable challenge. And it's not that it's just sprung upon us. This has been coming, I mean, you know, since 1979, I've been aware of this myself. It's been around for a while, the awareness of it, that, you know, humanity is coming to this point. I mean, the Hopi Indians even prophesied it over 2,000 years ago, that when people are talking through cobwebs in the sky, society was becoming increasingly polarized, a huge overcrowding on the planet, so on and so on and so on. Especially in the face of that, must we constantly remind ourselves that being here is a miracle. And then that means that every moment of being here is a miracle. No matter what's happening in that moment, anything and everything that is happening or isn't happening in that moment, even if it's really turgid or painful, and I have been through really turgid and painful experiences enough to know that this holds true. The awareness of the miracle of existence, which brings with it an innate delight in being, despite the fact that you might be going through much pain in that moment, emotional, physical, or both. And this delight, once you're tuned into it, actually becomes a constant. It can't be vanquished. Momentarily interrupted or interference run over it, just to distract you from it momentarily by extreme panic or excitement, which might occur in any given moment. You know, we're all human. Like, and when I say panic, I mean like, oh, what happens is that, you know, that ooh feeling, or wow, that feeling, when anything that's quite a strong pull to the external world might distract you or will distract you momentarily from the miracle of being. But, you know, so what? We're human. We're not meant to be like rigid about anything. There's always the yin and the yang. So if the awareness of this miracle state will be alternating with non-awareness of it, the trick is to get it to oscillate faster, and somehow or other with intention that causes you to default to the miracle mind state, which is another way of saying the transcendent state or the enlightened state. And it's a lovely notion, and it really works quite instantly. Hey, it's a miracle. I'm here. This is a miracle. And just keep saying it to yourself until you get it. This is a miracle. My mind is a miracle. My body is a miracle. My power of speech and communication, movement is a miracle. Other people being here, it's a miracle. The fact that society can order itself as incredibly well as it does, despite it not being perfect, is a miracle. The fact that we can have this global conversation, however jarring it may seem at times, or however dystopic the kind of the prospects may appear in any given moment, it's a miracle. It's a total miracle. All of humanity is a miracle, no matter whether there's people who are living or thinking or wanting things are so in direct contrast to what you want. It's still a miracle. It's a miracle. And by tuning into this miracle, it does some magic to transform everything. And that works on a purely intellectual level. So you're just using your thinking mind to think a different thought, which is to remind yourself, this is a miracle. Underneath everything, this is a miracle. Forgive me or bear with me being repetitive. Well, you know, it's part of the game, isn't it? And it's not only an intellectual endeavor. It would be fine if it was. It's certainly better than not having it going on and being intellectually lost in the details of the external world. It's also a psychophysical, psychoenergetic maneuver. And this is what distinguishes the Taoist practice from any other that I've encountered. And I have extensively researched over the decades. It's not like I don't know the other things that are going on. And I have huge respect for every system. But this one seems to be, to me, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, the only one that seems to address the desired intention for this enlightened state in the way that it does. And this is it, how it works. And this is it. And you, again, bear with me being repetitive, because you will hear me talk about this in different ways over and over and over and over, because it is the most salient, most powerful, most effective, efficacious move that I've ever developed in myself. And I say develop because it does take time to develop these skills. They are skills, really, ways of harnessing the mind to a certain kind of set of coordinates internally. And I remember when it started with me as a boy, when I was 11, doing Aikido. And Tio Honsai, my master, because they shout quite a lot, shout at me, Tanden, hara, this down below the belly button here. Focus, move from the one point. And it took, this changing from being in my head into being in my belly was quite revolutionary for me. It took many, many years. I mean, it's still taking many years. I'm still working on it, it's becoming more and more gathered around that point, moving from that point. And all the practice with the Tai Chi and the Xingyi, the Bagua, and the Crane and the Qigong and all that stuff that I've been doing every day religiously, which is unusual for me because I'm not religious usually in my style of doing stuff, every day for over 5 decades now. You think I'd know better, wouldn't you, by now? It works to develop that, moving from the center. Then there's the breathing, and really the Taoist approach to breathing is paradoxical, because that's with all things. On the one hand, you breathe like a baby, totally naturally, like a 4-year-old child. Because that's what we're wanting to do, is come back to being 4-year-olds, before we were conditioned too heavily by society, before we started people pleasing, performing to the crowd. When we were still in that natural heavenly state that we inherited, that we'd had in the womb, and we were still carrying that right brain awareness of things. And so yeah, you breathe like a baby, but at the same time, after a while of practice, you learn to bring certain controls into the muscles to accentuate or whatever. This is not the time to go into that. However, breathing naturally is very, very important. Letting the belly swell with the air coming in and pulling the belly back towards the spine to push out the air. Relaxing it, it swells, the air comes in, you pull the muscles back, pushes the air out. But you do this smoothly and quietly, and make it feel like silk being reeled from a cocoon. And by doing that, slowing the breath down and making it smooth and silent, it has a direct effect on the tone of your mind. That's the magic part. You change the tone of your breathing, which is quite easy to do because you can feel it, and that in turn changes the tone of your mind. Now that the mind starts to become a little bit more silken, it has the quality of silk rather than concrete, you can then start appreciating what's occurring in your body more easily. They call this proprioceptive sense. And yeah, so rather than dwelling in the realm of the imagination, we're dwelling in the realm of the body. But the body becomes an arena, a kind of a psychoenergetic arena in which to operate, rather than we're not looking at the actual physical anatomy of it. So the body becomes a place where there are these so-called psychic chambers within, or in the equivalent in Indian yoga is chakras, energy centers, realms. And so after the breathing is regulated and the mind becomes a little bit more silken in tone, the next thing is to appreciate where you're gripping with your muscles more than you need to be. So like, it does take a little bit of grip to sit, a little bit of grip in the buttocks and the hamstrings, a little bit of grip in the lower back, maybe a little bit of grip in the upper back with the shoulders, keep the head up, maybe a little bit of grip in the arms if your arms are resting on armrests or whatever. But generally, very little is required, and you can probably release the muscles. You can set them free quite a lot more than they are already. And as you do that, you at the same time set free your diaphragm, which is one of the biggest muscles in the body. It's the only really big transverse muscle, and it's the one that turns the lungs into bellows. It's the one that makes the lungs operate to get the air in and out. And we hold that tight without realizing it. We hold the breath without realizing it, as an unconscious way of trying to control reality, of trying to control the flow of inbound information, which is essentially what reality comprises, doesn't it? It's a flow of inbound information as far as we're each concerned, as I was saying at the beginning. The interesting part of it is according to this Taoist template, and I have to back this up with my own experience, the subconscious mind, which sits more in the back brain than the front brain, and is linked with the hunter-gatherer brain, the instinctual, in the moment, rather than in fantasy and future and memories of past brain. So really a lot more intelligent than the forebrain, which is all about imagination and so on. The subconscious is actually omniscient. It knows everything. It is privy to, or a receptacle of, all the information that ever was, is, or will be. And that is an infinitely, ridiculously, implausibly huge, imponderable amount of information. But it's not like all of that information is just some kind of book somewhere, right? That's that. It's happening now. It's coming through you now. And obviously you wouldn't be able to function if you were cognitively aware of all that information coming through. You know, the flux in radio waves occurring because one galaxy is moving past another a few billion light years away, for example. That is being calculated, believe it or not. If you had to deal with that information while trying to negotiate crossing a road, you know, probably be too distracted for your own good. So the conscious mind, which is the thinking mind, the bit that you think is you most of the time, which sits mostly in the forebrain, that supplies the service like Google of a search engine. And it narrows all the information down into a nice packet that in any given moment you can more or less deal with. And this packet of information that's coming through, that the conscious mind is limiting down for you from the plethora of information actually coming through, has to fit within the parameters of the story about reality that you have concocted since you're old enough to think or talk. And that has developed over the years, probably quite kind of a bit cockeyed because we were kids originally. We didn't know that much about what was going on. So the very premise and foundation of each of our stories is built on nonsense mostly, right? You have to allow for that. And a lot of it comes from trauma and our childhood reactions to trauma, which were not processed that well, obviously, we didn't know how to. A lot of it is taken in from nonsense other people have told us, adults and siblings and peers and whatever else, not to mention the media and everything else. And this story that we've concocted is how we describe reality to ourselves. We think it is reality, it isn't, but we think it is. And we react to the story we're telling ourselves rather than respond to actual reality that is occurring within and around us most of the time. The packet that the conscious mind reduces from the infinite amount of information coming through then fits within the parameters of your story. If for any reason, at any time, the packet coming through is too big to fit in the parameters of your story, you'll have some kind of breakdown at that point. It's not really you having a breakdown, it's the parameters of your story having a breakdown. So for example, heartbreak, when you split up with somebody that you're really in love with or attached to, or you know, whatever, or you lose somebody, it's huge. It's really, really, really huge. I've been there enough times in my life. I know it's really, really huge. And the feelings that come with it are overwhelming at times. I mean, really overwhelming. And it's all you can do to kind of negotiate it through in one piece. And people talk about it as being heartbroken, which is actually a poetic description and not actually factual, because your heart doesn't break. I mean, you'd be dead if it broke. Your heart doesn't break. What breaks is the story. And then all the attachment and investment you have in the story breaks. It breaks the string. And that's really painful, because you thought you were that person who'd invested in that story. And you weren't. You never were. You never will be. And you're not. But you think you are. And that's really why it hurts so much. It's why it's so difficult to die as well, because we're so attached to the story that we've concocted that we forget that what we really are goes beyond the transience of human life and death. And so, yeah, this story that gets fed to us. Now, even, forget about extremes like that, but it just as you go through the day, the fears that come up because there's so much information coming through that you've got to deal with in any given moment. For example, it's overload for most of us. And so we try and stop the flow. And interestingly, according to the Taoist template, it's the solar plexus here, where the diaphragm is, which is what provides you the energy to process information. So at any given moment, you have a whole universe worth of information, energy in energy form coming through your solar plexus. So the next interesting thing is that we as humans exist, we hold ourselves together, atomically speaking, on the atomic level, by resisting entropy. Somehow or other, we addict ourselves to the notion that here we are. Somehow or other, the form habituates itself to staying in that shape, more or less, and it resists the pull of entropy. It resists being dissolved for as long as it can, and when it can't anymore, you're gone. Therefore, at the very nub of our being is resistance. Without it, we wouldn't be here. And because of that, because it's our nature to resist, in every given moment, as the universe worth of information assails your solar plexus in energy form, your solar plexus is going, oh, wait a minute, wait, okay, come on then. No, wait a minute, okay, come on then. No, wait a minute, come on then. And that is, it does by tensing the diaphragm, which then impedes your breathing, which makes you uptight and less able to feel the information coming through. So the Taoist thing is to reverse that and by and by, bit by bit, let your diaphragm go. Set your diaphragm free and do more. Set it free again as you breathe out. And again, go even deeper and just let go and let go. And no matter how much you do let go of the tension there, there'll always be more. So don't worry, you won't run out of tension to let go of that. And it's not that you're meant to either, because we're not meant to be floppy. We're meant to be this beautiful juxtaposition of tension and release, the yin and the yang. And so now that the breath is starting to regulate, the muscles are starting to soften everywhere. Allow the skeleton to unfurl itself a bit. Let the spine, the most important bit of your structure, unfurl like a snake being charmed out of its basket, sort of urging itself up through the crown of your head so that your spine feels longer and you feel more dignified. Literally means upright. You feel more upright. And being more upright, your thoughts are more upright. You become clearer. Now, drop the shoulders and allow the whole thorax, the whole chest and shoulder, thorax, no, your thorax, to to broaden. And as that happens, it makes it easier to let your heart area open up. This is very important because the heart area opening up is what allows your beautiful love, your unique, beautiful love, your gift to the world to flow freely, and simultaneously allows the love of others and everything else to come into you. Keeping this area soft and available connects you at a soul level to all humanity and all sentient beings, whether they're corporeal or not, whether they're informal or not. So, you know, I mean, it's not about whether you believe or you don't believe them. The experiences, if you relax, that all around you are entities, are helpful allies. You could call them angels if you like. And you either feel that or you don't feel that. I don't think about it often myself, but every now and again I remind myself because I think it's important. And there's a sense that we're being helped by a whole army of invisible helpers, awaiting my bidding, awaiting your bidding. What you want, you tell them, and then they'll make it happen. And it does work. It does work. But to become available to that, you have to have your heart open. So far, so good. Next, there's because we're evolving bipeds. We've evolved from all fours upwards onto 2 feet, 2 legs, and that urge to keep going upwards and upwards and upwards doesn't stop. And we have this tendency to pull ourselves up away from the ground. And what the Taoist thing to do is the opposite, is to allow the weight of your being to drop, because that's what weight wants to do. Why fight that? Now, the weight of all your thoughts, the weight of all your feelings, the weight of all the story that you're telling yourself, the whole conversation you're constantly having about it all, the heaviness, the weight of the human drama, allow it to drop down into your pelvic floor. That's the root of your physical being. Just go, let it drop. Helps to kind of do it on the out breath. But because the spine is lengthening at the same time, that prevents a sort of slumping tendency. So you're quite, it isn't when I put my hand up, the light gets brighter, doesn't it? But I'm not going to sit with my hand up. So then comes the big bit. And this is the bit I was talking about. This is the most important move that you could learn. The other stuff has to be in place, or this in itself isn't really going to be the full ticket. You have to do all that to set up ready for this. You have a front sector and a rear sector. You have everywhere that is forwards of the side seams is your front sector, and that means everywhere forwards of your ear holes is part of the front, and everywhere behind the ear holes and the side seams is the back sector. And they are very, very different in their quality, in their atmosphere as environments. You remember I was saying that the physical body is the arena. So if we now forget about all the organs and the bones and the muscles and all the muck and all the lovely stuff and everything else that's inside the body, let's just see it as a big empty chamber now that allows for a bit of action. The front part of you is really exposed, right? The belly is all open, there's no bones there. The throat is open, the face is quite exposed, the groin likewise. And because it's exposed, it's insecure. Therefore, there's fear in the front part of the body. And right, that there should be, because, you know, if you weren't conscious of keeping that protected and safe, you'd be in trouble, especially before you managed to have such a technologically advanced reality as we have that we're privileged to enjoy for a little while at least now. The front of the body is like this. You have the forebrain is where you're conducting your internal narrative. Your internal narrative will be very much referenced to what you believe other people are going to be thinking about you if you do this or do that, or because you've done this or done that. It's the sort of societally reference brain. It developed much later than the back brain. It's also to do with language, which is about communicating with each other. And you know, right, that it must be that, because we do live in society. It would be ridiculous not to have that brain there, because then we couldn't live together. It's developed along with agriculture as the population has increased by and by, as was required. And it has now gained dominance, which is the problem, and I'll explain why. The forebrain is where we're conducting this ongoing narrative about what the world is, the nature of the world, how the world will treat us, how we must behave in the world, evaluating how well we are doing at all of that, and therefore trying to have a prognosis of how it's all going to turn out, occasionally working on diagnosing where it all went wrong, and so on and so forth. That's a constant play of swirling, conflicting thoughts in the forebrain. And this story that we tell ourselves, that to explain reality to ourselves, is so convincing, because we've been doing it for so long. We're so used to it that we mistake it for reality, and it isn't, but we mistake it for that because we're incredibly good at storytelling, making movies, in other words, and we're emotionally reacting to the story as we're telling it to ourselves, rather than responding to what is occurring in the moment. And because of that, the reaction which is in the belly and the thinking which is in the forebrain, that's all in the front of the body. It means that the whole front sector of you is a very noisy, busy, quite jarring place most of the time. And there is absolutely no way of changing that, because that is the human condition. It's a conflicted condition, as is all nature. However, what you can do, not only is a choice, but it's your right to do this. And this is to do with self-determination. I saw a slogan written in English, bizarrely, in Catalonia about 3 or 4 days I had to go up there. It was saying, it was about Catalan independence, obviously, and it said, self-determination is not only a choice, it's a right. And I was thinking, well, yeah, exactly, that applies to us as individuals. It is our right, our entitlement to determine our own state, how we wish to be in any given moment, because that's what we're on about here. And by that, collectively to affect the whole, i.e. all of humanity, can be affected by how we do this. And the back part of you, so let's talk about this. The back part of you is your seat power. It's like, the body's like a palace. They call the heart area the Crimson Palace. It's the palace, and you're the sovereign of the realm. Now, as you know, in palaces, the sovereign does not sit in the front part. It's too noisy. That's where all the people are coming and going, and that's where the guards are marching up and down, and the messengers are coming in with messages, and people are coming in with cushions with things on them and all that stuff. But the queen or the king sits in the throne room, which is way at the back of the place, guarded, protected, and it's in the nice bit where the garden is and all the rest of it. And they sit there with their back up against the back of the throne. They don't lean forwards to listen to the courtiers or the ministers. The ministers, courtiers, visiting dignitaries and so on are obliged to come forwards to them, because they're the sovereign of the realm, and they sit back in the back of the throne, in the back of the palace, in the back, in other words. That's where the power is. When you were in the womb and you started dividing the cells, you started off as a spine and grew out from there. The spine is the original cell. It's the original, the back is the original you. You learn in the martial arts to sit in your back and deliver your strength, or deliver your blows rather, from the back, because then you've got your whole body weight behind it. You don't need arm strength, you've got your body weight in it, it's got power. Likewise, fielding blows coming at your person. By being in your back, you're not attached to the front. You're not worried about it being hurt, because you're not it, and you know it's not you. So you're able to operate much more effectively. That's where all this comes from. And so when you learn to sit in your back, you then acquire the tone of the back. And because the back is very strong relative to the front, because it's pretty much guarded. There's only the area of the kidneys and the back of the neck where it's exposed. And it needs to be exposed in those places because there's a lot of sensory input comes in through the back of the head here, the back of the neck, and the kidney area. Yeah, really, it's not just the sense organs in the front. You learn that as a martial artist, to feel what's going on behind you through your kidneys, and to look behind you through the back of your head, to develop peripheral all-round vision, which is crucial in fight situations. And and yeah, believe me, it's true. You do. There is stuff going on behind you, not just in front. And we only think it's all going on in front because all the sense organs face forwards. And that is what draws us into the front of the body because it's so, scintillating, scary, exciting, exacting, challenging. Wow, what is this? So we come forwards and we forget to go back. That starts when you're about 5 or whatever at school. You kind of come forwards to get a handle on what you've got to do in this weird school culture, and you forget to go back. That's why we have to do this thing. So in the back of you, very strong. There's not much going on in there. There's really not a lot of organ action going on in there. And there's no psychodrama occurring there because the subconscious mind, the hunter-gatherer mind in the back, isn't busy doing stuff. It's just awake. It's just alert. It's just for you. It's not going through all kind of weird mental machinations or making up stories. It's just appreciating being alive. And when you come into the back, you acquire that tone of strength, of silence, of stillness, of power. And you are entitled to live in your back all the time. So you may think that, well, if I'm in my back all the time with no story running on in the front, how will I operate in this world? Will I not go mad? And the answer is you will operate better this way, and you will definitely not go mad. You will stop being mad, if anything. Because madness, to me, there's lots of different versions of it, but it's when you're completely lost in the story in the front, and the story's got out of control, and you don't know how to tame it because you're lost in it. Very simplistic way of putting it. In the back, none of that's going on. How would you interact with the world? Well, by keeping the heart open in the front, you connect, as I said, at soul level, which is a much more authentic, satisfying connection for all parties concerned, and actually elicits far better results in your negotiations with the world. So getting the things that you want will happen more easily when you're coming from there, because there won't be so much resistance of surface level resistance, providing what you want is in line with the greatest good of everybody. Which is another thing. It's very important that you inform yourself with the intention that everything that happens in your life will be for the highest good and by the free will of everyone. It's very important to remind yourself that every single day, because that aligns you to an integrated way of being, to integrity and an honourable way of being. So yeah, learning to sit in the back, you will find that you're able to observe, bear witness to the thought processes occurring in the front of the body, rather than be dominated by them. When the front brain starts to concoct a story of you're going to fail, you're going to mess it all up, you're going to end up on the street dying, poverty and hunger and da, 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 and you start reacting to that in your belly, when you're in the back, you just observe it happening, and rather than going and getting lost in it and starting to do things or phone people or do stuff quickly, you just observe and go, so there is fear, and instead of acknowledging the fear in my belly, I've tried to do something with it, make sense of it, and I've created the story. And then I've got afraid of the story. I've created a sort of toxic, imaginary fear in my belly for no reason whatsoever. Instead of just going, oh, there's fear in my belly, I'm going to breathe with it, be an animal, be afraid, so what, I'm on a planet, everyone's afraid here. Be afraid, and it's great, beautiful, it's lovely being alive, nice, good, I'm in the moment, don't need anything right now, I've got everything I need, I'm alive, everything's going to be fine. Whereas my intention is to, for everything to continue being beautiful and get better and better, not just for me, but for everybody. And that can only be conducted, that level of sense, from the back of you, because you have the stillness, the quietness, and you've come out of the yin-yang story. Because in the manifest realm, which the front body is associated with. Everything is governed by the yin and the yang. It contracts and expands, it contracts and expands. It gets difficult and gets easier, it gets horrible, it gets beautiful, it gets sweet, it gets sour. That is the nature of manifest reality. So to prefer one over the other is natural but silly, because it's only going to turn into its opposite anyway. So rather than cling to one and avoid the other, welcome somehow both and just watch them swirl around and move from one thing to the other. But in the back, you're able to be that way. You're able to be beyond preferences. You're no longer caught in the realm of the yin and the yang. So this is the big trick. When you're in your back, there's a feeling that the skin of your back and the back of your head is not where you stop. This physical being, this human, is merely the tiniest tip of the biggest iceberg. I hesitate to use iceberg because I don't see it as cold. To the contrary, but behind you, stretching behind you into infinity, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, the more your awareness goes back, is the rest of your being, which in fact is the Tao. It's the Tao in the kind of shape of your nexus. And that is forever. And this thing that's manifested called you in the front of it is merely transient and is a beautiful phenomenon dancing around like a flower in the garden for the season. To enable the Tao to enjoy itself as you. And it wants to enjoy itself, and it will enjoy itself more the more people are turned on to that. So it gives you a mission to spread your joy, your energy, your vibe through the open heart to as many as possible, so that it can wake up in as many people as possible, because the more people it wakes up in, the more fun it's having. The more fun it's having, the less likely the Tao is to manifest itself as catastrophe, in my experience. So our role here is to facilitate the Tao having fun. As we get the Tao having more and more fun through everybody that's on the planet, the chances of people doing destructive things are minimized or reduced, and the chances of people doing constructive things, which is really vital right now, both sides really vital, are increased. So everybody benefits, and that's why I like doing these miracle sessions, because by just focusing on it, we actually activate it. So if you would care to join me, relax everything, just let everything drop. Breathe slowly, freely. Let all the muscles soften everywhere. Let your chest broaden out. Let your spine be lengthening constantly. Let the heart be soft and open and expansive in the front. And tuning into the unique beauty of your own soul, allow that to spread from you outwards freely, forever and ever, to everybody. At the same time, be recipient to the same coming in from everybody towards you. And start to feel, as you breathe in and out, your whole being becoming activated with love. This is feeling of the goodness of reality. We don't often tune into that. We often tune into the opposite. Let's tune into the love. It's the beauty. It's everywhere. Let's just breathe it in and breathe it out. Share it, magnify it, amplify it each time we breathe in and breathe out. So that's the milieu in which we're all sitting here. And allow as you allow the weight of the body to drop so that you feel weighted on the ground, become aware that you're on a planet. And this planet is moving at 30 kilometers a second. That's 19 miles per second. 19 miles. That's 66,000 or over 100,000 kilometers, 66,000 miles every hour. That's how fast we're moving. And spinning on the axis at 1,000 miles an hour gives the whole thing an incredible kinetic power, as any geologist will tell you. So by tuning in, allowing the weight to drop and feeling yourself on the ride, which is what we're really on, suddenly you're actually with what's going on here. You're with reality. No longer you're in the silly story. You're actually doing what you're doing, which is having a ride through space that's lasts how many years it lasts. It picks you up at one point and drops you off at another. We don't know why, but that's what's happening. And it's fun if you tune into it. That gives you a lot of power, tuning into it. It gives you that kinetic power. It keeps you young, keeps you vital, gives you energy and so on. It keeps you engaged. That's the thing. It keeps you engaged with what's happening. Here I am. This is the real reality on a physical level anyway. And now differentiate between the front part of you and the back part. Be aware of the front part, be aware of the activity that's occurring in there, the conversations that are occurring, the reactions to those conversations. And rather than engage with it, drift backwards inside. Just tilt yourself backwards so that you fill up your back. Get a feeling of the weight of your body gathering in the back of you rather than the front of you. And immediately, as you gather your weight around your spine, you feel more solid. You feel more here. You feel more still. You feel more silent. You feel stronger. The front part's still doing its thing. The breathing's happening. The information's still flowing. Tendency to tense up is still there. The tendency to talk all day in the front of the brain is still there. However, it's no longer personal. You're not involved with it. It's just an energetic phenomenon. And you're letting it go on its own. Fine. Picture your mind like a little wee Buddha with your face on it. Stand up out of the front and walk to the back of the cave of the skull. Sit down at the back of the cave and lean its back into the rear wall of the cave and get comfortable. Imagine there's a lovely pile of cushions there it's leaning back into. And the eyes, if your eyes are open, are now just two openings, two apertures in the front of your head. If you've got your eyes closed, it's the center of your forehead that you'd be looking through. And you're basically just gazing into reality, into infinity beyond reality. From the back of your head, you're now able to bear witness to the phenomenon, the miracle of being you alive from the back of your head. You're able to actually bear witness to the miracle of being you. So now just being in the back of you, keep drifting backwards inside. Don't stop at your physical back. Keep flowing backwards, falling, flowing and flying backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards. And as you keep flowing backwards, you're getting bigger. You feel yourself just expanding beyond the physical dimension, bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's no stopping. You just keep going back and back and back and back, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And essentially, you're withdrawing yourself from all objects of fear and all objects of desire. You're going backwards away from them. And you're able now to say that I will draw into my sphere in front of me here as I drift backwards, the essence of everything I need now to support me on my mission of expressing and sharing the joy to my full potential in whatever way I'm doing that in my life. And as you drift backwards, you're going back at such a rate that it's causing a vacuum that's drawing onto you, into the space in front of you, the essence of everything, the seed of everything and everyone, every opportunity, every event, every resource, every bit of help, every bit of information, everything that you need to succeed on your mission fully while you're here. And you don't have to analyze what that is. You don't have to enumerate it. The less you do, the better, in fact, other than you can point out to yourself, if you need to, the basic tenets of it, which is, material support, is creative success, emotional fulfillment, whatever it is that you feel that are the main headers of what comprises a successful life for you. You don't have to enumerate though, you just know that all this is going to remember while doing this. You do not have to, must not even try to believe any of it. Believing it merely gets in the way. Believing is for kids. This is not kid stuff. This is proper adult activity. No believing is required. Just forget about believing. You just have to conceive of it. Because remember, we create reality for ourselves. Our version of it is what we're creating on behalf of the Tao. So there's nothing that you need to believe. Just believe without believing in anything. Just believe. That's enough. Believe. Be filled with belief, but don't believe in any of this stuff or anything. You either know it or you don't know it. And that's the way that wisdom works. So don't try and believe this, just conceive of it. And do not try to agree with it. Don't debate with it. Don't analyze it. Don't agree with it, but agree to it. That's all you have to do. In principle, as an experimental stance, yes, I will agree to this. If it's true, if it works, great. If not, I'm having a good time anyway, so what? the attitude to deal with it. So you're drifting backwards, drawing to yourself the essence of everything and everyone that you need to succeed on your mission here. And you're aware now that you're in the company of many others here around the world, both in this moment live and afterwards when the people are watching the playback, you know, which doesn't mean that we're not connecting. We're still connecting like that. And we together somehow are like a version of how the Tao works. Many of us together, all of us different faces, different angles on reality, and yet all essentially the same one presence informing all of us. And as you drift further and further back, becoming aware of everybody, each of us drifting further and further back, each with our hearts open, you become aware of us being the presence, the big presence together. We are the big presence. And as such, we have agency, we have power, we can intercede in proceedings. And right now, there is a world of humanity which is in crisis and it needs stabilizing. The psyche primarily, the collective psyche needs stabilizing. It needs a sort of the fizz taking out of it. It needs a stabilization and a grounding and a purification and a refinement and a relaxing. And in all of that comes naturally an awareness again of what is real and what isn't, because the whole process of taking truth and bending it has become so extreme on a collective level that, that there needs to be a purification to come back to the essence of what is so. And that's what we're interceding for here, that the collective psyche finds its wholeness again, it remembers its wholeness again, and that there's a miraculous, i.e. sudden quantum level return to a predominance of wisdom, honesty, honor, kindness, caring, and that a reduction of the extreme chasing of profit, short-term profit at all costs, and rather than and a reduction of that individual must win at all costs psychopathic kind of approach to life, to a collective we must together win, a shift from self-absorption, self-obsession to altruism, a natural one, an organic one, not because everyone's trying to be saintly, not because of any kind of righteousness, none of that, genuine, compassionate, empathetic humanity, humaneness. And we're interceding for each of our own version of however we're seeing that love, you know, however you want to call it. And just picturing that we're holding the world in our hands between us, and we're nursing it back to health. Just see that. We're nursing the world back to health. And just picture it. Don't believe it, just picture it. Like you can picture ostriches dancing a twist in the sky. That you don't believe it, you see it. Just see it. Just see it. We're seeing everybody on the planet feeling this right now, even if they're not aware of it. Like everyone's being blessed right in this moment. Everyone's being blessed, including you and I, including us. So being, as well as being the big archangels that we're being, or whatever you want to call it, we're also the humans. Feel it, enjoy that, enjoy the privilege of receiving the blessing as well. And then remember that for each of us, we each have our own story that we're acting out within the collective story. And focus your intention on that as well. So within this big collective story, that, for example, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but that you will be fully present and appreciative of the miracle of your existence every single moment. Even when you're really afraid there won't be many more moments, especially when you're afraid there won't be many more moments, that you're willing to suspend judgment and not jump to conclusions about how it's all going to turn out for you personally or for the world, that you remain eternally, genuinely optimistic in that in every given moment, you will always seek to make the most of it rather than the worst and the least of it. not just for yourself, but for everybody. And that within this story, the big collective story, you will fulfill your potential in every respect that is important for you. So that by the time you hang up your earth boots and quit, you have no regret. You feel that you have had the full ride, the full deal, that you have given and received everything that was in your destiny to give and receive. Therefore, the whole thing was really worth every bit of suffering you've been through, and every bit of trial and test that you've been through and will go through. And remember that this is common. Everybody, every single living being, every human being for sure has this going on, has to deal with this existential crisis right now. So we're in a very privileged position to be able to focus on it just in this moment. And through doing that, you can feel now in your heart and your body, there's a new energy. I can feel it in mine. An energy's being activated. However subtle, you can feel it. It seems to radiate from the heart, from the belly, and from the middle of the brain in a kind of huge spherical effusion of love. And it's a practical feeling love. It's not an airy-fairy one. It's a love that is tangible, that has healing power. And you're radiating that, you're receiving it, you're giving it, you're receiving it, you're giving it. And let us keep awake and aware so that by the time we do the next one of these, around about then, we could discuss, look back and see what has happened. It'd be interesting. I've never done that before. I notice stuff happening and changing and moving and stuff. I can never say if it's from doing this or not doing this, but there's a feeling that obviously there is an effect, and it's impossible to know anything other than subjectively, but it'd be interesting to talk about it. And I would like to throw the floor open for just 5 minutes to anyone who might have a question or something they want to contribute. I did go on quite a long time there, but it was coming through, nothing else I could do.
Well, thank you, Barefoot. That was absolutely wonderful, really wonderful. And I had a, yeah, there's 2 people have raised their hands, but before that, there's also a question from Jacqueline Ridley.
Yeah.
She says, Barefoot Doctor, many blessings and love to you. Could you say about letting go of past regrets, feeling sad about not doing better, especially when you wake up in the Tao? Thank you.
Jacqueline, did you say?
Yeah, Jacqueline.
Yeah, well, thanks, Wordy, for your kindness, and I will. Jacqueline, yeah, well, this is really good, because what we have to do with this practice I've just been describing, we realise that actually, you said it in Kung Fu Panda, there are no accidents. Everything is part of the flow of destiny, and everything that you have done, every choice that you've made was the right one for you. And the regrets that you have are there because you haven't yet spotted the benefit, the blessing that's come out of it, out of whatever it is that you're regretting. And the more, all I can say is the more you practice what we've just been doing, the less regret you have. It just is quite clear that everything that has led you to this point was what was meant to happen. When I was 59, it was 6 years ago, I nearly died. Well, no, I didn't actually. I was misdiagnosed. They told me I was dying, but I wasn't. Or at least, I don't know. I healed myself. Maybe I was dying and then I wasn't. Who knows? That's actually more like the truth. Just before when I was walking around thinking I am definitely going to be dying, and I was 59, I was walking through a churchyard in Oxford actually, and I was thinking, well, it's a little bit young to die, but I have done everything, and I've tasted everything that I wanted to. I'd like to taste more of all those things, sure, but I've actually done that. So, I can't be greedy about it. And thank you for everything that has come before. And then I allowed myself, because it's the first time I'd ever done that. I'd understood gratitude or appreciation for the present moment, for everything I have, but I'd never considered looking back and thinking, thank you for everything, for that story. What a story that's been. Wow. I mean, the complexity of it is enormous. And to actually allow myself to see every bit of it, that the bits that I had been ashamed of, or the bits that I'd been sad about, or the bits that I would have regretted. And all of it was okay. All of it was thank you for everything, because even the squirmy bits, even the bits that were with this trauma, all of it was what was needed to bring me to this moment. And we must trust that. Oh, well, you don't must trust it, but I would definitely advise it, because that's a great way to operate. I hope that's helped a little bit. Wordy, wordy. Yeah,
I forgot to unmute me.
Yeah.
My unmute didn't work. There's two people quickly that had their hands up, so I don't know if they meant to, but I'm going to click on Kay Newsham, and allow her to talk if she did. So Kay, if you're there, you can speak. Maybe.
No, nothing.
Oh, yay.
Hey, Kay.
Just Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, to you.
It's all right, the talk's gone again. The allowed to talk's gone. Moment. Sorry, everybody.
That's all right.
I'm clicking on the allowed to talk and the chat, and it's not working. Where have you gone? I'm sorry, Kay, you've vanished. Can you put your hand up again? And meanwhile, I'll see if Clive's there to talk quickly. Right, Clive, if you're there, you should be able to speak. No?
Zoom is definitely not the boom, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. Oh, I'm sorry. It should. I'm clicking the buttons and I don't know why they're not working. Let's have a go again. Clive, unmute. Okay, unmute. If either of you are there, you could speak.
Kay has gone away and Clive did not arrive. So we'll have to stay base for another time. Are there any other comments or anything? That's all right.
Oh dear. No, or Jacqueline Ridley has replied, and she says, "Thank you so much, Barefoot Doctor, for your wisdom. Has really helped."
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And Clive says, "Another time."
Another time, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I'll get to. Well, yeah.
Well, thank you, Wordy, thank you, everybody. I'll try and leave a little bit more space next time for questions and answers and what have you. But really, thank you, and it was lovely to do this. I pray that you received that in the same feeling, that you had the same feeling from it that I had doing it, because I do think there was some power there. And let's do it again in a month. And that's it, and that's all. And I'm going to say bye.